that brick that give it its structure, right? In the same manner, our body, right? How our hands look, how our muscles look, how our different tissues look, right now. The reason they look and the reason they are able to exist together, it is because of the cells, and the cells are giving us the structure, the body shape, right now. And then you have also another thing called as functional unit. They are also the functional units. Why functional unit? Because each and every cell of different tissues of different organs are performing different functions. For example, the cells of the bones are providing different function, right now. They give
Yeah.
the shape and structure to the body, right? The muscle cells are performing different functions, the ligaments are performing different functions, the tendons, the nerve cells present in your brain that
So
performs
the
different
blood cell.
functions, the blood cells that performs different functions, the heart, the liver, and so on and on. All of them have got different functions to perform, while at the same time they also provide structure to our body as well. Hence they are called as structural and functional unit of life. And the case is not only with the human body, it is also applicable for plants as well, right now,
Yeah.
for other animals as well. Okay, now the question is that where did this word cell came from? In Latin,
It is a Latin word.
it is a Latin word, right? So in Latin, you have got a word called as cella, C-E-L-L-A, cella. Cella, what does it
Yeah.
mean?
Little rooms, like in
Exactly.
Sicily.
It means little room. So it comes from a
Yeah.
Latin word cella, which means a small room,
Mm.
right now. Okay, now
Yes.
apart from structural and functional unit, we can also call cell as the biological unit also, guys.
Yeah.
So three things: structural, structural, right? Functional and biological unit. Three things are here. Biological, why? Because it is related to all forms of life on earth, right?
Yes.
Okay, and also it is the smallest unit of life, right? And it
Yeah.
can replicate independently. It can replicate independently. What does it mean?
It
Meaning,
can reproduce.
mhm, it can divide, it can reproduce. Okay,
Yes.
it is the smallest unit of life that can replicate itself. Getting it? Okay.
Yes.
And cells are often called as what? Building blocks of life. For
Yes.
example, building blocks of building are what? They are bricks. So
Bricks.
for humans
Yes.
or for life on earth, it is also called as building block of life.
They're like
Yeah.
atom.
Yeah.
They're like atom.
Hmm. Exactly.
But
Right now.
atoms are in non-living things, right?
Look, here's the thing here. In fact, the thing is here now. If you were to look at the cells, cells are also made up of atoms basically.
Hmm.
Are you getting it? Look here. If you were to take a human cell, right? Let's take a human cell and observe it under a microscope. So human cell will have its own structure. There will be a outer boundary of the cell. There will be some components inside in it. So inside,
Hmm.
although the components of the cell we are going to basically study in this chapter, but since you have posed a very interesting question here, let me say you, if you were to take a plant cell here,
Hmm.
plant cell, and take its cell wall, right? Cell wall,
Yeah.
you will see it is made up of cellulose, right?
Yes.
Cellulose is also a type of compound. It will be made up of so and compound, right now.
Hmm.
Let's say it
Yeah.
to be XYZ compound, any compound,
Hmm.
getting it. So if it's compound, it means it is made up of different types of elements also. let's say,
Yes.
just say hypothetically, I'm saying that it is made up of X, Y, and Z elements. Compounds, you guys know. What is it compound? What is a
Hmm.
compound? Like you
Yes.
have got elements combined together, then it forms
Yes,
compound.
sir.
So all the
Yes, sir.
elements, we know elements are made up of atoms, right now.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, so here you see we call it as smallest unit of life. We don't call it to be smallest thing present on the earth. Don't call it the
Hmm.
smallest thing. We call it as the smallest unit of life, right now,
Yeah.
because we see, because if we were to look a cell closely, it is also made up of different components, and if you were to take
Yes.
any particular component from the cell, that is also made up of some further that can also be divided into different things, and then eventually we
Yes.
come to atoms, right now.
Hmm.
So atom is
Yeah.
the smallest thing, but talking about life, it's cell. Now, who was the scientist who is credited with the discovery of cell? Like, was he the inventor or the discoverer?
Sir, discovered,
Discover.
invented.
Discoverer,
Yes,
obviously.
yes, sir.
Yes.
He can't be the inventor, obviously.
Hmm.
Yes, sir.
So in the year 1665, notice the year. In the year 1665, there was a scientist called as Robert Hooke. You can look at him in this given
Yeah,
picture,
Robert Hooke. Mhm.
right? So how
Yeah.
many years ago?
1665.
1665. So almost
Yes, sir.
350 years ago,
400. Yeah.
right?
350.
Right now.
Hmm.
So that many years ago, this was the scientist who used a very primitive microscope that you can see here. This was the microscope which was used by him, right now.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so using this primitive microscope, he discovered the cell, right now. So
Yeah.
when he was studying cells, he saw that the structure looks like a honeycomb. This was the
Yes.
cell
Hmm.
as
These are the
seen by
cells.
Robert Hooke, right now. So when you see honeycomb, you guys have seen it. So the cell structures were
Yes.
looking like a
Yes, sir.
honeycomb,
Hmm.
right now. Okay,
They
Yes,
were
sir.
dead cells.
they were dead cells. So this
Yes.
cell sample was taken from a dead cork.
Yeah.
Cork, you guys know. Bottles, earlier bottles were packed with cork, a piece of
Hmm. Hmm.
soft wood, right now. So he
Yes.
noticed
Hmm.
that each box was separated from the other by a partition of wall. So notice here,
Yeah.
this dead cork, it is actually a plant coming from plant now,
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
So here we are talking about plant cell. So this was actually a plant cell that was being studied by Robert Hooke in the year 1665. So he noticed
Yes.
that each box. So if you were to zoom it, let's take one of the cell from it. Let's say this is here, right?
Hmm.
So each of the cell were
Yes, sir.
separated by each other by a wall that was called as cell wall, right now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is how he discovered the cell, right now, and
Yes.
he was also the one who named each of these boxes as cell. So the term
Yes.
cell was given by him.
Yes.
So Robert Hooke called these boxes as cells, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
he must not have called it cells. He must have called it as cella, CELLA. But nowadays we call it
Hmm.
as cell, right now.
Yes.
Okay, and this cork is actually what? It is the bark of the dead plant, or basically bark
Yeah. Hmm.
bark of a plant, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now moving on further, look at this a typical structure of a cell, right? Before
Hmm.
we move to that, there are a few important things, right? Some
Hmm.
important things like scientists could study cells of living organism when like earlier now it was only possible to study cells of dead organisms or dead plants.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
at that time,
They didn't have improved
microscopes,
microscopes.
they didn't had improved microscopes, right now. So once
Yes.
the improved microscopes were developed, the scientists were able to study living cells as well, guys, right now.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so almost 150 years after Robert Hooke, discovered cells, it was in the year 1830.
Yeah.
In the
There
year
were three
1830,
scientists.
there were two German scientists. Very good. Two German
There are three,
scientists.
right? One after in 1850.
One after?
One after 20 years, 1850.
Okay. Basically, in the 1830, there were two German scientists. There was one
Yeah.
after them also. Okay, who basically improved the
Yes.
theory given by them. But let's first
Yes.
come to this two German scientists. So there were two
Yeah.
German scientists. Can you
Schwann
name them?
and Schleiden. Schwann
Sheldon
and
and
Schleiden.
Swan. Sheldon and
Schwann.
Schwan. Right.
Yeah.
So in short, I'm writing the name this, although they have got a very lengthy name. So it was Sheldon and Schwan. Right.
Yes.
So these were the two scientists who proposed the cell theory. So in the year 1665, Robert Hooke has discovered the cell. Right. Now, after 150 years, almost after 150 years, when the microscopes were
Yes.
improved microscopes were developed almost about 150 years after the cell was discovered by Robert Hooke. So these two German scientists gave us cell theory.
Yes.
Gave cell theory. Now, what does this cell theory basically say? The cell theory stated things like all living cells are made up of cells, all living
Cells.
organisms are made up of cells. First thing,
All the cells came from
pre-existing
previous
cells
cells. Yes.
are made of cells. Okay, all cells come from pre-existing cell.
Yes.
Come from pre-existing cells. So these were the conclusions given by them when they studied the living cells under the microscope. Right now.
Yes.
Okay, and he also called that cells are structure or functional unit of living
Of
organisms.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. Cells are functional unit of life. All right, guys. Okay, if you like, you can take the screenshot of the pages as well. Take the screenshot of the first page.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, take it.
Take the next one. Okay, good. Now,
Done.
do you guys know the egg that is laid by hen? That in fact is also an example of a cell, right?
Yes.
So what does it mean?
Yes, sir.
Like it means that the size of the cell can vary now.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, their shape can also vary.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, for example, you have got a unicellular organism called amoeba. The shape of that
Yes.
unicellular organism is different. Okay,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
in fact, it does
It's
not have any
amoebatic.
predefined shape,
Yes.
right? Okay,
Hmm.
so you will see that organisms show different, they show variety in their cell number, like their unicellular, multicellular, the shape of the cell and the size of the shell as well, right now. So
Yes.
basically, to
Yes,
study
sir.
the microscopic cells, they basically have got the microscopes, which basically magnifies them. Now, how do we study them? Basically, like many of the cells, they are under the microscope, they will basically look transparent. Hmm?
Yes.
So suppose if you were to study the
We put
onion
dyes.
cells, they used to put dyes in them, no? Right
Yeah.
now. So if you were to study cheek cells or onion cells, so onion cells
Hmm.
are basically transparent. So we have to dye them first so that their
Yes.
structure will be more visible once you have dyed them, right? So
Yes.
cells were dyed, so we can study their parts differently, right?
Hmm.
Now,
Yeah.
the number of cells, if you were to talk about it, based on the number, the organisms have been classified into two. Okay, let me write it over here. Let's see if there's enough space. Anyways, variety of cells on the basis of number. So on this basis, you have got two classifications. One is the unicellular,
And multicellular.
another organism that is multicellular.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are doing the classification of organisms based on unicellular and multicellular, right? So
Yes.
you have got examples of, for example, a mango tree that has got trillions of
Yes,
cells in
sir.
it, right now.
Yes.
And then you have got examples of unicellular organisms, for example, amoeba
Hmm.
Sir,
or a
is Hydra
paramecium.
classified as an a cell?
Hydra will be classified as a multicellular organism. It has got multiple cells, right now.
So you
Yes.
Okay,
said it was an animal, so I
it
thought
was
it
an.
was not a cell.
No, if it's animal, it is all, even then it is made up of cell, right now. Whether it's animal or
No, sir,
plant.
as in general, it is classified as a cell, like amoeba.
Mhm. Yeah, amoeba is made up of only one cell. A paramecium is
It's a
also made up of
unicellular.
only one cell. They are unicellular organisms, right?
Hmm.
While hydra, in fact, it is not microscopic. You can actually see it, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So these
All
are some of
humans
the
are
animals.
multicellular.
Exactly. Humans are also multicellular. Getting it, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So you see that multicellular organisms that have billions of cells, initially
Hmm.
they started their life as a single cell.
Single
We
cell. Yeah.
humans, we
Yes.
also started our journey as a single cell, right now.
Hmm.
So the fertilized egg which you see is a single cell now. The sperm
Yes. Zygote.
fertilizes the ovum and a single cell is formed, right? Okay.
Yes.
So eventually it multiplies and more cells develop. Getting it?
Yes.
Okay. Now you see, if you were to look at the unicellular organisms, in fact, they are also able to perform all the necessary functions. For example, ingestion, digestion, excretion, reproduction,
Yes.
growth. They are also
Hmm.
able to perform these life functions as same as the humans as well, right?
Yes.
What is the difference between them then? Hmm? The only
In
difference.
a unicellular organism,
Cells and
Okay, Arhan, you were saying
in,
something.
so the difference between them is they are made up of unicellular
Mhm.
organisms are made up of singular cell and multicellular. They form
Hmm.
trillions of cells.
in a
Okay.
unicellular, the all the things are done by the single cell, and the multicellular it is divided upon each cell.
Exactly, exactly. Okay. So the thing is that in case of a unicellular organism, a single cell is performing all the functions in
Hmm.
that organism right now. While in the multicellular organism, you have got a specialized group of cells to perform different functions right now.
Yes.
And those specialized cells forms into tissues, then tissues forms into organs, and then
Organs.
forms of the organ
Organ
system, or that is
systems.
the complete organism, right?
Yeah.
So that
Hmm.
was the classification of organism based on the number of cells in them,
Yes.
right? Okay. So majority of the points we have covered, right?
Hmm.
So now if you were to talk about um, variety of cells based on their shapes, the shapes are also different. So for example,
Yes.
if you were to look at the nerve cell of the human, or the blood cell, or the muscle cells, or the cell of the ovum, or the shape of the sperm, or basically the
Mitochondria.
fat cell present in your body, or the
Hmm.
mitochondria. Mitochondria is a cell organelle. In particular, it's
Yes.
not a cell. So these are having different shapes, okay, pertaining to the function they perform. Since they have got different functions, their shapes are also different,
Different. Yeah.
right? So for example, amoeba you see, which is a single cell organism, it does not have
Yes.
any definite shape. It shapes keeps changing as it moves or
Yeah.
feeds on its prey,
It
right now.
has the same shape as white blood cells.
Yeah. So you will see the amoeba, whenever prey is near its body, it will develop protruding legs. It will start to protrude its body parts towards that amoeba and form false legs and basically surround that prey and engulf it. So it forms
Hmm.
pseudopodia, right now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
pseudopodia is
Yes.
what? It is basically the false feet that the amoeba develops.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we are talking about shape of cells, right? So we
Hmm.
had example of this amoeba over here, right? So it can actually change its shape if there is a prey nearby.
Yes.
These are the same. The both of them are the same amoeba, right? So
Hmm.
here it has developed false feet.
Yes.
False feet. False pseudo feeds podia.
Hmm.
Pseudopodia. All right. Okay. The projections are pseudopodia here. Now talking about the human cells. Humans have got how many cells? Is it possible to
Um.
count?
No.
No, sir.
There are many
Almost no.
cells.
There are millions and millions of cells in human body. What are some of the cells? For example, you have got white blood cells
White
found
blood
in the
cells,
blood.
red blood cells,
White blood
platelets.
Yes,
cells,
sir.
very good. White blood cells
So
improves of
vessels.
immunity. Vessels, blood vessels, right? Usually in the blood
Yes.
vessels, these cells are found, as you
Yes.
guys
Yeah. Yeah.
mentioned, white blood cells or red blood cells or platelets, right?
Hmm.
Or you have got
Yes.
cells that makes up our muscles, right? And then
Yeah.
you have
Smooth
got
muscle
cells
cells.
that forms the nerves, right?
Nerve
Now how
cells.
the sensation,
Neurons.
how the messages are transferred from our different body parts to our brain, how the messages carried. So all
Hmm.
these cells, they vary according to the functions they perform, right?
Yes.
Okay. But still you will see that most of the cells that are found in our body, they are either round, spherical, or elongated. They will be
Yes.
basically round in shape. Some of
Hmm.
the shapes you will see that they are spindle shaped, which are long and pointed at both the ends.
Smooth
For
muscle
example,
cells.
smooth muscle cells. Very good. So you will see that is very long and pointy. It somewhat looks
Hmm.
like this. I don't have the
Yes.
figure, otherwise I would have showed the figure of all the different types of cells which we are talking about. So that I will show you in the next class. Then you have got
Hmm.
example of nerve cells. So
Nerve
nerve cells
cells.
are not very
Branched
long.
cells.
They are very
Yes.
branched and not long cells, right?
Hmm.
In fact, in the human body, if you were to look at the length of the cells, nerve cells have
One
got the
meter.
longest cell. Yeah, exactly. It can be up to 1 meter.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay. So let's mention few important points. We have got example of blood cells. Okay, what is the shape of the blood cells, by the way? That
A
is
spherical.
spherical, round, right?
Hmm.
Okay, spherical like this. And talking about this is the smooth muscle cell.
Yeah.
And this black dot which you are seeing here, now this dark region, that is actually its nucleus.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have
Hmm.
example of nerve cell also. Okay.
Neurons. Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, neurons. The structure somewhat looks like this, right? That is the
Yes.
head, and that is its tail. And it has also got a nucleus, that is nerve cell,
Nucleus. Hmm.
right now. Then you have got
Yes.
fat cell also. Fat cell is also
Yeah.
spherical.
Yes. It's
Somewhat
also
looks like
spherical.
somewhat it looks like this. Fat cell. Okay, in the
Hmm.
same manner, you have got bone cells also. So depending upon the
Yes.
functions they perform, their shapes are varying here. Right now, guys?
Yes.
Okay. So the shape of the cells, how this
क्या
shape is being managed here.
आटा गूंद के रखा है उसको थोड़ा फर्मेंट होने में टाइम लगेगा नमक मिलाओ
Yeah. Guys,
चाय बना देंगे
okay, Arhan, mute yourself. Okay, look here. How these cells are able to maintain their shape? The question is that how they are able to maintain their shape. Hmm?
Hmm.
Why their shape does not changes automatically? Because they have got a covering on them.
Hmm.
They have got a covering on them that is called as plasma membrane or cell membrane.
Cytoplasm. Hmm.
Cytoplasm is a different thing. It is the jelly-like fluid present inside them. The
Oh,
outer
yes,
bonded
yes, yes.
I'm talking about right
Mhm.
now.
Yes.
So they are able to maintain their shape. Like if a bone cell is has got a particular shape, or a blood cell has got particular shape, it is because of what? It is because of the boundary that they have got, that is allowing them to retain their shape. Okay.
Yes.
So here you can see that is in fact mentioned over here. Can you guys see it over here? Cell membrane,
Hmm.
right? So
Yes,
this
sir.
Yes, yes.
here you can see that is the cell membrane
That's
of
my
the cell,
brain.
right? So that is giving it
Yes.
its shape. Or
Hmm.
in plant cells, there's one more layer outside the cell membrane that
Cell
is
wall.
called as cell wall. So here it is an example of animal cell. Had it been a plant cell, there would have been a one more layer outside it.
Yes.
Then you would call it as cell wall. So
Hmm.
in plant cells, there are two layers of boundary, while in
Yes.
animal cells, there are only one layer of
Only
boundary.
one.
That's why human cells are softer than the plant cells, right? So
Hmm.
if you were to
Yes.
Yes,
look at
sir.
the bark of the plants, they are much more hard, right?
Hmm.
And they are able to resist heat, moisture, wind much more in a better way, basically,
Yes,
right now.
sir.
Yes.
Okay, so far we have talked about two things: variety of cells based on the basis of their numbers and on the basis of their shapes. Now,
Shapes. Yeah.
talking about the size of cells, let's talk about them as well. Like earlier, I
Hmm.
gave you an example of a ostrich egg. In fact, that is the biggest single cell,
Yeah, biggest cell. Yeah.
right? So their sizes also vary, right?
Hmm.
So the smallest cell, it is actually found in the bacteria, and it is just zero point 0.1, ranging from 0.1 to 0.5 micrometer long,
Yes.
10 raised to the power minus 6 meter.
Hmm.
Getting it? So cell
Yes.
can be up to this small, and largest cell, as I said, it's the large ostrich egg,
Ostrich egg.
right? And the dimension is
Hmm.
somewhere around 17 centimeter to 13 centimeter. That is a dimension right now
Okay.
of an
Hmm.
ostrich egg. So that is pretty big,
Yes.
right? Okay. So basically, we can conclude here that the size of the cells may vary from millionth of a meter, known as micron, millionth of a meter, to few centimeters, as in the case of a ostrich, right?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, guys, you see, you have got animals of varying sizes also. Like you have got largest mammals, like the blue
Hmm.
whales, largest mammal
Yes.
Yes,
present on
sir.
Earth, that is elephants, and you have got
Hmm.
mammals like we humans, and then microorganisms.
Yes.
Yes,
The
sir.
question I'm posing to both of you, that is it necessary that larger mammals or larger organisms will have larger cells? The size
No.
the size of the cells will be larger?
No.
No,
No.
sir.
They're absolutely equal, but the amount of
Hmm.
cells will vary.
Exactly. It is the amount of the cells that varies, right now.
Hmm.
It is not
Yes.
necessary that the size of a large animal such as an elephant will be larger than cells of a human body, right now. So
Hmm.
it basically depends on the functions it performs, and obviously
Hmm.
the size, the mass that the body has. If it's larger, it is going to obviously have more number of cells in it, right now. Okay.
Yes.
So if you were to take example of the nerve cells of a rat and nerve cell of
Hmm.
an elephant, you are taking
Yes.
nerve cell of a rat and nerve cell of an elephant. Both have got to perform same functions, and hence they are of the same size,
Yes.
right now.
Yes, sir.
That is the
Yes.
thing here. Okay. Now moving on, let's begin another important discussion. Like the life that existed on Earth millions of years ago, and the cells that were found in the organism back then, and the cell that is present now, right? Okay,
Hmm.
not in the organisms, like basically the cells that were present like millions of years ago, and now it and the cells that are present in the organisms nowadays, both are completely different. How is it so?
Yeah. What?
So
I am
because
saying
the
that.
range
Mhm.
in environment and climate.
Not necessarily that. Okay, that must have been the triggering factor. Okay, but cells basically evolved. They went through the process of mutation. They adapted to the changes,
Yes,
right?
yes,
They adapted to the changes, and they have evolved. So we have basically classified the types of cells as prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells,
eukaryotes. Yes.
right?
Hmm.
So prokaryotics are basically the cells that were present in the lives millions of years ago. So that has been classified as
Yes.
prokaryotes. And now it is the type
Hmm.
of cells that is found in the organisms today that we call them as eukaryotes. Okay.
Eukaryotes.
Now let's
Hmm.
understand about both of them. What are they? Okay. In the class, in the chapter, the type of cell that we will be studying will be eukaryotic cells. So quickly, let's
Okay.
get to understand about prokaryotic cells. So
Hmm.
generally, the size of the prokaryotic cells is very small, ranging
Yes.
from 1 to 10
And the nucleus
micrometer.
is not well,
Yeah,
well.
we will come to that as well. Where
Hmm.
1 micrometer is equals to 10 raised to the power minus 6 meter.
Hmm.
Basically, 1 millionth of a meter, no?
Yes.
Right? 1 million at a 10 lakh. Okay. Also, it is called as
Yes.
micron. Also,
Hmm.
it is called as micron as well. Now, if you were to look at the modern day cell or the primitive cells, you will see the dark matter that is present at the center, or in some cases, it
Nucleus.
might be at the lateral side also. So that the nucleus which we are talking about is in the modern cell, it is well defined, while in the primitive cells, it is not well defined, right? So nowadays we call it as nucleus, but if you were to study a primitive cell, it will be called as nucleoid, right?
Yes.
So let's take the diagram here. Yeah, take this diagram. That is a cell of a prokaryote, a prokaryotic cell here, and that is a modern
Yes.
day cell. Look
Hmm.
at the center of the cell, and look at the
Hmm.
cell this cell number 1, that is eukaryote cell. What is the difference, Arhan? Do tell me the difference between the two. Yes, what difference can you see between the two guys? Yeah,
So can I say?
yeah, sure.
There is not a well-defined
Mm-hmm.
nucleus, and there are not much
Mm-hmm.
organelles.
That is obviously the case here.
Hmm.
So basically, you will see that the boundary of the nucleus was also not well defined, right?
Yes.
There were
Hmm.
slightly lesser amount of cell organelles, which we will study in a moment,
Yes.
right now. So the nucleus was not well defined. So it was called as
Hmm.
nuclide. So a well defined nucleus will look like this. It will have a boundary and a clear cut demarcated shape. It can be demarcated
Yes.
easily. While in the prokaryotic cell, it will look like this, right now,
Hmm.
somewhat like this. The nucleus of
Yes.
a prokaryotic cell. Yes, Arhan, are you there?
Yes, sir. I actually got it, sir.
Okay, no issue. And if you were to look at the chromosome present in it, they will have
Hmm.
single chromosome and it will be circular.
Yes.
The chromosomes are usually like this right now.
Hmm.
Okay, but
Yes.
the chromosome present in the prokaryotic cell, it will be circular and single only. Okay,
Yes.
now just like our bodies have also got different organs like hearts, kidneys, brain, liver, so on and
Hmm.
on. In the same manner, a cell also will be having its own organs. They will be also
Yes.
performing different functions right now.
Hmm.
Okay, like if you were to see at our stomach, the purpose of the stomach is to digest the food, right?
Digestive. Yeah.
Right. Take the example of lungs, that is the helps in the exchange of gases. So in the same
Yes.
manner, a cell also exchanges the gas via its boundary, via its cell membrane. If you're
Hmm.
talking about plant cells, it will be cell wall. So
Cell wall.
via its boundary, via its wall, it exchanges the gases right now. So they are also performing pretty much similar functions. So their organs are
Yes.
called as cell organelles
Cell organelles.
right now. Notice this thing here,
Yes.
cell
Organelles.
organelles, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So you will see now in the modern dead cells, in the eukaryotic cells, the organs also have got their boundaries, right?
Yes.
So the organs which we will be studying, for example, taken this, that is an example. This figure is an example of a eukaryotic cell. Eukaryotic cell.
Yes.
So these are some of the organelles. I'm not naming them. Just look at them, guys, here. So they have
Hmm.
also got a clear-cut boundary, no? Yes,
Yes.
Arhan, look at
Yes,
them.
sir.
The boundaries are very clear, sharp and
Yes,
Hmm.
clear
sir.
here, right?
Yes.
So that we see that membrane-bound organelles were actually not present in the prokaryotic cells, right? It was
Hmm.
not well
Yes,
defined.
sir.
So this much point, remember about the prokaryotic cells. Any confusion so far, guys?
No.
No, sir.
Okay, good. Now let's move to the modern day cell. That is a eukaryotic cell.
You carry on.
Okay,
Yes.
the size of the eukaryotic cell is slightly larger than the prokaryotic cell. That will range between
Hmm.
5 to 100 micrometer. Okay,
Yes.
the nucleus will be very well defined.
Hmm.
Will be very well defined,
Yes, sir.
right? And it will be surrounded by a nuclear membrane. Okay,
Yes.
so this here is a nucleus, and the boundary of the nucleus will be called as what?
Nucleolus.
Sir,
Nucleolus.
cytoplasm.
Not nucleolus. No, nucleolus is a different thing. Okay,
That's
Ram.
cytoplasm.
Nucleoplasm. No. No.
Nu-
No. No. No.
simply nuclear membrane. We call it as simply nuclear membrane. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Nucleoplasm, that is a different thing. We will get to know that
It's
in
inside.
this class. Right. It's inside this nucleus right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Nucleus is also inside this nucleus. We will get to know about that as well right now. But in a sequence
Yes.
manner, or otherwise the concepts will be mixed and will be difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now it will be having more than one linear chromosome. Remember, in the prokaryotic cell, the chromosome was circular. It was circular,
Yes. Yes.
right? And it was only
Yes,
one.
sir.
There was only one.
Yes, sir.
But here it will be looking like this,
Multiple.
right? And it will be multiple in nature, multiple in number,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Okay. Now the organelles that will be present in this, like the endoplasmic reticulum, you will get to know about them. Endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, right?
Mitochondria.
And the
Yes.
Golgi bodies, and so on and on.
Lysosomes.
Lysosomes,
Hmm.
very good. So they will be having a proper boundary, right now.
Yes.
So the organelles will be having a membrane bonded. They
Hmm.
will be basically, right. So one of the example here is pretty simple. That is human cell is an example of eukaryotic cell,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So what were the things common between the two? Are there anything common between the two cells, guys? You guys tell me. Can we say anything is common between the two? Hmm?
No.
No, sir.
Basically, the thing is now they have got same structure, but later on the structures present in them got evolved. Right now.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, uh, let's talk about the components of the eukaryotic cells in detail. Right.
Hmm. Okay.
Let's talk about the component of let's take two examples here. Right. So take a cell of a union. Okay. So if to study that first, you have to stain it. Either stain it with blue color or either stain it with red color. Okay. Only then you will
Yes.
be able to study it. So when you will study it, you will see that it will be having a boundary. The cell of the onion will somewhat look like this. Yeah. Let's say I have taken a cell of onion, and
Hmm.
it will somewhat
Yes.
look like this, right?
Hmm.
and there will be a dark center
Nucleus.
in between inside them, that will be called as nucleus. Right now.
Nucleus.
Okay.
Yes.
And in between the nucleus, okay, let me write it first. Nucleus, right? And since we are studying a plant cell here, so it will be called as
Cell
cell
wall.
wall also, right now.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Cell wall. And in fact, they will have a double layer, right now.
Yeah. Cell membrane.
Exactly,
sir.
exactly. Very good. Like this.
Hmm.
Do you guys have biology laboratory in your school, or do you guys ever went to
Um,
perform any activities there, like
I
studying a
don't know
cell?
till now.
There must
I
have
don't
been.
know till
There
now.
must. Okay, okay. But in our school, we got to perform this activity, and in fact, this one is very
Okay.
interesting. Okay. In fact,
Hmm.
after performing the activity, I was so interested in it that I was almost about to purchase a microscope. Right.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So you see, you have got a cell wall and then you have got a cell membrane as well.
Hmm.
Okay. Cell membrane is also called as plasma membrane. Notice this
The
thing.
plasma membrane. Yes.
Good. Okay. Now, in between this nucleus, in between the nucleus and the cell membrane, a jelly-like fluid is found. We observed that a jelly-like
Cytoplasm.
fluid was
Cytoplasm.
formed that we call as cytoplasm. Right now.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So we are basically concluding few things from this activity. Right.
Hmm.
Before that, let's also take another example of animal cell. So if you were to take cheek cells,
Yes.
cheek cells, this is onion cell.
Hmm.
So there you will also be observing same components, like you will get to know that and get to see that cheek cells also have got cytoplasm in them. They also have got
Yes.
cell membrane, and they also have nucleus in them, right?
Nucleus. Hmm.
Okay, so
Yes.
in order to do that, what you will do, you will scrape the inside of your cheek lightly with a clean toothpick. Okay,
Hmm.
you will
Yes.
place it in a drop of water on glass side so that it remains hydrated.
Hmm.
Okay, now after that, you will basically put some drops of iodine solution, or you can take methylene
Yes, sir.
solution also. Methylene blue solution can also be taken.
Yes.
Let me write it over here.
Therefore,
Iodine
in our book,
solution, or
there are four types of dyes.
ethylene blue
Saffron,
solution. Exactly.
saffron, eosin,
Saffron is
methyl blue,
also
and crystal violet.
very good. So either of the dice can be taken as per our convenience right now. Okay, so you will
Yes.
take that and you will basically see that, I don't know if you guys like whenever you will have blood test now, they will
Hmm.
basically use a piece of glass slab like this.
The cover
Yes,
slip.
sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
that
Yes,
is
I've
actually the
seen it.
cover slip,
Hmm.
right? So basically a
Yes.
piece of cheek cell, you have taken it, you have put some drops of iodine on it, and then you will place a cover slip above it, and your slide is ready now. Now it can be studied
Yes,
under
sir.
the microscope, but you need to make
Yes.
sure that there is not any bubble in it. Otherwise, the cell
Hmm.
structure can't be studied properly. So the cover
Yes.
slip needs to be placed over it very properly, right
Hmm.
now.
Yes.
Okay. So when
Yes,
you will
sir.
have when you will be observing it under the microscope, you will see it will also have the components like cell membrane, right? Then it will
Cytoplasm.
also be having a nucleus and cytoplasm. So what can we
Yes.
conclude here? That both the animal cells and plant cells, they will be having these components, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So these are the things which are the general observation in the cells, right?
Hmm.
But if you were to see in the cytoplasm, majority of the component lies in the cytoplasm.
Cytoplasm.
Look at
Yes.
the cytoplasm of both of them, of onion cell and the cheek cell as well. You
It's
will
in the
see
middle.
that there are numerous components in them. Like what?
Hmm.
Plastids. It will be actually present
Yes.
in plant cells. Then
Yes,
you will
sir.
see mitochondria,
Mitochondria.
Golgi bodies. Then you will be
Hmm.
having ribosomes, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Then you will be having
Lysosomes.
two different types of endoplasmic reticulum. It could be rough and smooth
Yeah.
as well, right? And
Smooth.
so on and on. So many organelles can be observed, right?
Yes.
Okay, now so let's talk about the cell membrane then, right?
Hmm.
So cell membrane is that component of the cell that separates the cell from one
One
another,
cell from another.
right? And also the
Yes.
internal contents from the surrounding medium. That is
Yes.
the function of the cell membrane
Cell
that
membrane.
is does. Cell membrane, it has got another name. It has been called as plasma membrane
Plasma
also.
membrane.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, talking about its structure, it is actually porous in nature, and it will allow some of
Yes.
the materials to pass through it and
Yes.
stop some of the materials to pass through it. So
Hmm.
we can say that it is semi-permeable membrane.
Yes. Yes.
It is a semi-permeable membrane.
It's called a selectively permeable membrane, right? Or the
Exactly,
semi.
semi-permeable membrane or selectively permeable membrane also, because it will
Okay.
select some of the components. For example,
Hmm.
it will allow oxygen to pass in it. It will allow the
Yes.
nutrients to pass inside it, while it will allow the carbon dioxide to pass through it, right?
Yes.
And it will stop basically unwanted materials to come inside it. For example, it will not allow carbon dioxide to come
Carbon
inside
dioxide.
it,
Yes.
while allow it to pass across it, right
Hmm.
now. Okay,
Yes.
so although the materials can move both inward and outward, but it will be selectively done. It will be done in a
Yes.
selective manner.
Hmm.
Okay, guys. Now let's talk about the cytoplasm. What is this? Cytoplasm is nothing. It is basically a jelly-like substance that is present between the nucleus and the cell membrane or the plasma membrane.
Yes.
All the organs of the cell that you see, basically they are suspended in this cytoplasm. They are
Cytoplasm.
floating in this, right?
Yes.
Okay, because they can't be suspended in the air, no, or in the
Hmm.
vacuum there, right? So that there has to be a medium. So it serves as a medium basically, right now.
Yes.
So you can have a
Yes.
look at some of the cell organelles are also depicted in this figure, like ribosomes,
Hmm.
ribosomes. Then you have got example of this endoplasmic
Capsule.
reticulum, right now. This is
Hmm.
a mitochondria over here. So these are basically
Yes.
suspended in the cytoplasm.
Hmm.
So these two things are clear. Cell wall,
Yes.
as I said, it is present only in plants. So it basically
Plants.
serves as an additional covering over the cell wall, and it provides protection to the plant cells. Also, it
Yes.
gives shape and rigidity to these cells, right? Now, being rigid in nature, that is the reason why the plants are able to withstand the stress of high velocity winds, rain, and high temperature. So plants can survive
Hmm.
all. Okay, that is
Yes.
because of cell wall, right?
Yes.
So cell wall, it is actually made up of cellulose,
Yes.
right? A compound that gives it rigidity and strength.
Hmm.
Now talking about the cell factory, basically the cell organelles, it is being referred to the cell organelles, as I
Hmm.
already told you about it. Now all the components must be having some specific functions to do. Not all of them have got different, not
Yes,
same
sir.
functions. So
Yes.
some might be providing energy, right now.
Yes, sir.
Some might
Hmm.
be providing energy. Some might be serving as some might be
Suicidal
acting
bags.
as societal bags or a
Suicidal
storehouse.
bags.
Exactly, they are also
Hmm.
called as societal bags. So some of them might be serving as storehouses, where the waste
Hmm.
material goes into. Okay, so these were the cell organelles. Talking about the nucleus, here we are only talking about eukaryotic cells, guys. Now, talking
Yes.
about the nucleus, it is a basically spherical and located in the center of human
Cell.
cells. Basically, you will see. While in the
Hmm.
plant cells, it is not at the center. It is basically in the
Yes.
lateral side,
Side. Hmm.
right now. So here you have got a plant cell like this, and here you've got an animal cell. The nucleus
Plant cell
might
also
be
has a cell sac.
Yeah, cells have, right now. Then you will,
Hmm.
in fact, you will see that there are more free spaces available in plant
Hmm.
cells, right? And
Yes.
that we will also come to know that is called as vacuole, in fact, while in an animal
Hmm.
cell, it is at the center.
Yes.
Okay. So it is generally spherical and located in the center of the cell. Generally, notice the term
Hmm.
generally. Generally, it is spherical. It might be of different shape as well, but generally spherical and located in the center, while it can be in the lateral side as well.
Hmm.
Uh, Nucleus is separated from the cytoplasm by a membrane called the nuclear membrane. Getting it?
Yes.
Now, inside
Hmm.
this nucleus also, you will see there's another dense mass that is called as nucleolus.
Yes.
So nucleus is that dense dark matter present in center of the cell, generally present in center of the cell. Inside that nucleus also, you will see there's another dense dark mass called as nucleolus.
Nucleus.
Right? So it is like this. You have got a cell, there's a nucleus. Inside this nucleus also, there's a dense mass being called as nucleolus.
Nucleus.
Okay, but that we will discuss later on. Now, what is the function of the nucleus, guys?
To send um, like what to do in the cell.
Hmm.
Commands.
Hmm. Good. Just like how our brain commands us and um,
Hmm.
directs our body to perform different
Yes.
functions, the same manner nucleus does that.
Hmm.
And in the previous chapters, we have talked about reproduction in humans, right? So basically,
Yes.
how the traits from the parents transfer to the child. So basically, the
Hmm.
information is coded in the genes, in the genome of the
Genes. Yes.
in the parents, right now.
Hmm.
So that gene is basically present on chromosomes, and chromosomes are actually found in this nucleus.
Yes.
Getting it, guys? So it
Hmm.
also carries the hereditary information. Can't we say that?
Hmm.
Since
Yes.
genes are present in it, so we can also say
Yes.
that as well right now. Okay, guys. So it uses information in the chromosome to decide what each organelle should do and the functions of the cells. So there are
Chromatin fibers.
informations. Very good. So there are no informations encoded in the chromosome that allows the cell to decide what organelle should do what and what not. Right now,
Hmm.
the nucleus contains an even smaller concentrated material called